So how about now? Okay, yeah. We wanted to talk about how just in some of the articles we were looking at, we'll try to include them in the show notes.
Yeah.
But some of the way that the globalist establishment is trying to deal with the Taliban and trying to deal with them like they're like legit operators, and are they paying them? I mean, what are the details?
Yes, they are. They are paying. One place I saw $64 million, and I'm not in front of the computer now, but another place it was a lot too.
So, in the name of humanitarian aid, they're just going to pay them off.
Right. That's
paying the poll tax, paying the jizra to the Mohammedans there. Of course, we had the Leathernecks. They were the Marines, and they have the honor of fighting in Tripoli against the pirates, the Barbary pirates, because they wouldn't pay the tax of the Muslims. So they had to have a special leather neck installed in their armament and their equipment so that they could help them from getting, because the Barbary pirates always try to behead you and chop your head off, So if you have a neck guard, then it makes it harder.
It's like, you would think they're doing that for chopping the heads off and torturing. I heard they chainsaw one guy up alive. You think they were doing it to set an example, but it seems like they're doing it for fun. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Well, it seems like that there's something about the ideology, the actual breakdown of the human discourse and the actual socialization of the law of Sharia, like Sharia law, when you actually put it into practice. It actually it lets out everyone's inner bully. So if you can just snatch some woman off the street who isn't walking with a relative, then she can just be your wife for a few hours, and you could cut her head off because she was being a bad Muslim. So it seemed to entice the worst human instincts within our primitive selves or something.
I don't know if it is inherited or if it is socialized. I think it's a little of both. I hate to say that. I hate to think that people are born evil, but I think there are some people out there that are.
Well, I mean, if it's part of your actual your upbringing and the ultimate and highest devotion of your entire existential being, your whole life is built up towards, as far as going to the mosque to pray. And in a lot of ways in the West, it's not that, it's become the religio-cultic practice of Christians in the West has become such that we have to just go into the holy place, listen to the guy talk. We get the liturgy and the little piece of paper. So we just follow the steps, and it's kind of becoming kind of ritualized. And that's what it's like with Islam. I mean, they have these 5 basic principles that you have to abide by, and it changes the nature of deity. So it's communicating to man, look, this is the nature and mind of God. And so it defines God. God says, I want you to kill every single non-believer you find. So if that's your religious devotion, it makes you, there's no telling how deeply that affects the stratification of personality and psychology within somebody. I mean, in the West, we're told, totally opposite in Christianity. The Christian message is to have mercy and show kindness. So it's, and of course, if you look, I mean, if you look at in Kabul, if you look at Afghanistan, and I mean, it's really a nation of goat herds, and they're never going to be able to ever read or write because their whole religion is don't read or write, just listen to the guys who can read the Quran to you, and you go to mosque and you read the Quran, and that's it. So there's no there's no geometry, there's no astrophysics, there's no arts or science. None of that is involved. So it's a perfect device of Satan if you want to retard an entire people and make sure that they can never ever develop culturally, civilly, intellectually, academically, in any kind of way. They're just going to be
because you're only doing what you're told. You're not learning it and internalizing it and then coming up with your own opinion of it. You're just doing what you're told, and that's all that you know.
Yeah, you as an individual cease to really exist. You just become part of this mass body of people, and you have to conform completely and totally And then any nonconformity is an obvious sign of heresy or infidelity or what have you. And so that's what these guys do. They steal some jeeps from the United Nations peacekeepers, and these Taliban guys ride around in the jeep, and they find anyone who is not listening to their absolute divine authority, and they whip them. So it's a pretty simple process. So you can see that, I mean, there's no actual personal accountability. You're just either the whipped or you're the whipper. And there's, you're
part of the group. Group psychology is very interesting. People will do things they would never imagine doing as part of the group. But you look at those riots. The riots here in Oregon and wherever else, they were infiltrated by CIA and then led by CIA, which they're not supposed to operate in the United States, but I have sources that say they were.
Well, I've been, from some little bits of information I had, apparently under the Obama administration, they legalized the use of propaganda against the American people. I don't know when or where that happened, or how many millions of pages of bills got passed, but at some point, even the QAnon stuff is really the turning inward of the intelligence propaganda, stuff towards the American people, and it's all like a gaslighting. I remember when you were talking about it before, I was like, what does that mean? And it's kind of hard to understand what it means exactly, because it kind of has to, you have to kind of, see it happening to people. And there's all these color revolutions around the world, which the CIA has just brought that home here to basically control the insurrectionists of America. So I guess we're moving towards. I think we're already in the state of martial law. I think that was the case whenever they put which was the ultimate result of the QAnon stuff, was when they put the Capitol in lockdown with all the big metal fencing and everything. I think we saw the nature of that beast at that time. So
I'll tell you a 2-word phrase that is going to be our downfall is domestic terrorism.
Right.
How do you define that? I mean, it's such a fluid phrase. It could mean anything. Teacher. Well, we mentioned it before. It's happening in our education system. But
no, they've totally. I mean, I'm trying to understand. You're not even allowed to use the term conspiracy theory, or you definitely just relegated yourself to the fringe. But the point is that they've worked really hard in concerted effort in this combination in different ways to put in the effort where it matters the most to destroy the minds and the hearts of the young people in the schools. I mean, and doing it culturally too. So it's cool through hip hop and through all the different the Kim Kardashian figures. I guess we're too old to understand it anymore, but through the hip culture, the hip hop culture, they have all this influence over the young people, and then when you give them the devices now with Snapchat and so on and so forth, we just have a whole different level of consciousness that they're building in the young people, and so you have to really be on top of it as a parent. You have to totally.
Well, both of your kids and my kids are both indoctrinated, at least to some level.
Right. Well, they know that the indoctrination is there. I mean, I think that where we had to go to a different school area to get the kind of school that we wanted, and so I think that's like paying. It's like reaping this really great harvest with our kids right now. But so I think other schools are being inundated with the teachers' unions and the hyper leftism, so that. I don't know if they're part of the Church of Satan or what their whole agenda is, but they're definitely trying to get you to abort your kid. And if you can't get your kid to be aborted, I mean, if you have your child, then they definitely want to take control of your kid and teach them all kinds of perverse ideas and in atheism, and also teach them ultimately to abort their kids. So, it's an ending. It's an ending of the line of generations. They're really just trying to cut off any further development of the demography of human freedom. So it's a bizarre and totally evil situation that people have been. I mean, it's weird to see them being painted into a corner philosophically, so that they've spent all these decades saying my body, my choice, and then when it comes that same situation is in play with people who don't necessarily want to take a vaccine, then you're going to see that it really isn't your body or your choice at all. It only works if it works in their favor. It's a strange. I think that their level of the ethics game is that they're going to do whatever it takes. I remember what did the one guy say? He said it was the Attorney General for Obama. He said about kicking them when they're down. We're definitely going to kick them when they're down. That was what he said. So that's the whole point, is that the left is here to tear down your statures, abuse your kids, and just kill you off, because and you have to understand, people are so confused because it's really an extension of the Counter-Reformation, and the Counter-Reformation wants to return these to like colonies that belong to the kings, the Spanish king or whoever, and therefore you don't have any kind of Bill of Rights anymore, and you don't get to have any kind of say. And you just, and so it's like we said, it's this neo-feudalism, this neo-serfdom that we're facing, and that's what they mean by the Great Reset and this kind of coming collapse. I think that we're definitely looking at, if you look at Agenda 21, all it is saying that people have to live in cities under 20,000. They can no longer use vehicles or automobiles anymore. You can use cows or maybe like little bikes. And you can be a farmer, and it's a total return to this agrarian lifestyle where, so I think that's back to where we started. That's kind of back to, they wanted to de-industrialize the West. And so I think that's those kind of plans and that kind of like ambition. I think that people are sitting home eating Doritos, watching The Simpsons, and they have no idea that these kind of plans are being made. They just can't comprehend it.
I wonder if the relaxation of the cannabis laws figure into that.
Well, I noticed it does, because the cannabis laws are fine, but they won't let you have hemp. And hemp is the thing that you really need, because you can make rope out of it, and more than that, you can make kerosene out of it, and you can even make fuel out of hemp, and you can do all kinds of things with hemp that are crucial. I think that those were the kind of things that because those are the kind of things that are competition for petroleum, and are not going to be allowed to exist. But if you want to grow that bud, and you're not trying to like have you just try to smoke weed, and you're not trying to have an alternative.
You're
not trying to have an alternative to
marijuana in Florida. You can't have. Well, you're not allowed to own a gun.
Well, you said exactly. You just said it, medical marijuana. Now you're kind of making marijuana, which is just this plant that grows outside, and you're just making it into a medical thing where you have to have a prescription and a doctor.
Why is that? Opiates are much more addictive. People will kill for opiates. Yet, if you're prescribed hydrocodone, you don't have to surrender your gun.
Right. Fascinating.
I think it's just one little baby step towards.
Well, first of all, you got to come out of the closet. It reminds me of these sheriffs who put if you think you've been sold dirty meth, come let us know and we'll test it for you. Some asshole always walks in there. It's the same thing. Like, you're going to walk in there and be like, yeah, I smoke weed, and I'm going to sign up on the government medical information here. And you're giving yourself and you can't just smoke weed because you enjoy it the way you like eat marshmallows. No, you have to have a medical reason. Like, I'm doing this because I'm handicapped. I have a handicap. I have some kind of medical debilitation. I'm so debilitated that I'm going to take this marijuana. So that the whole arrangement of the presentation of the thing is really suspect to me, because I don't think if I wanted to smoke weed, I wouldn't need a medical reason to do it. I just like it. That's it. Yeah. So there's no reason for any medicine.
There's Delta 8 out now, and Delta 10 and Delta 0, and they're just as effective, or if not more effective, than Delta 9 regular cannabis.
Right.
And that's
synthetic.
You can get that from any smoke shop.
Is it synthetic as far as?
It's not. No, it's not synthetic. The molecule is just tweaked a little bit to where it doesn't.
It can't be
qualify at the same formula as THC. THC Delta 9 is cannabis.
Gotcha.
The Delta 8 is
pretty much the same thing.
I figured you would have heard of it by now, but it's been out for a little while.
I know they're doing all kinds of things, but I just the way I look at it is that they're trying different things. In the development, it reminds me of the philosopher of Heidegger, and it was like the enframing of technology. So in all ways, at all times, as we develop technology to try to help us and assist us it really does what it's called framing, or encases us, or it really like absorbs us entirely over time. So even like when like a pilot has to get into the cockpit, he has to like climb all the way into this thing and buckle himself in, and he's completely inserted himself almost like a computer chip inside the machine in order to operate it and use it, right? And so he's so completely part of the machine now. Like the technology is so completely an extension of his own, personality and self.
Yeah.
So that's what happens ultimately with technology. Without meaning, it's not a moral or immoral process, but it's the process of enframing. We ultimately imprison ourselves with technology. So all of our texting, and it just makes it some guy over there in Washington who wants to read all your texts. And so now we have all these kind of cool banking debit technology. Now you have the IRS who wants to watch all your debit transactions. And so there's just the more and more we try to make a way for ourselves to have less work and try to advance our lives, the more and more we give an opportunity for others to enslave us. So I mean, the way other people think. I remember hearing about Osama bin Laden, how he came to New York City once and flew in. It was one of the only times he ever was on an airplane. And I remember how crazy it must have been for Osama bin Laden as he comes in to New York, fly around the city, and then kind of come in and swoop in and go into the airport. He must have saw the two towers there. He must have saw them sitting there, right? The towers, the World Trade Center. So, he must have been thinking, I could crash this plane into that. He must have been thinking that for a long, long time, like how easy that would be. We don't think that way. Or the way that I remember hearing about ISIS terrorists were talking about how they could take advantage of the fact that in America, every morning we roll out our big yellow school buses, and millions of children climb onto the buses, and how easy it would be just to attack these big yellow buses, and because, we don't think that way, but that's how other people think about the way we live, is that it's vulnerable and it's weak and it can be destroyed. And so I think that's what they want to do it. I mean, I think that a Protestant nation with Republican values and a Republican and democratic government was not something that was meant to last long.
I came up through the electric trade as a union electrician, and they support Democrats no matter what. And the Democratic Party is not the same as it was 20 years ago.
Right.
It's some bastardized version of it.
Well, I think that. Have you ever seen that movie? It's on. I know you're not big with the movie scene, but it's called. It's about the witches. It came out recently. I can't remember. But anyway, I'll have to. Anyway, hold on.
Yeah.
Damn. Anyway, no one's here to help me. But if you watch this movie, okay, here it is. Suspiria.
What is it?
It's a Suspiria. So it's Suspiria. Suspiria.
Oh, I didn't see it, but I saw where it was on.
Now, this is a freaky and highly occultic movie that's all about like the destruction of the West. If you look carefully at the scenes and what they're showing you, it's showing their goal and is the destruction of America on all sides. So I think we've become this target of all things that are hateful and evil and all creeds of.
We're losing our God-given right of freedom of choice. That was
as far as
the thing that God gave us. He made us a sentient being, and now the state is God, or that's what they're moving towards.
They can't help it. They want to in all ways. It's just the Luciferian movement that they ultimately want to. They really hate the Jews because they really hate that Jew book, the Bible. They really hate that Jew God. So there's a fundamental hatred of it. So you can see how Luciferianism with Helena Blavatsky and Theosophy, how they invert Yahweh to be like Satan. And they lift up Lucifer to be the true divine light and the true creator. And that all these false worshipers are worshiping this fallen God. And they try to say, well, Yahweh is a God of blood oaths and blood sacrifice and just kind of this dark God of violence and vengeance. And you know what I mean? And how he destroyed Egypt. And so that's the way that this new age woke theosophical United Nations philosophy thinks. They think of the people of Judea, the Jewish people, and they think of their Bible as like a fallen throwback primitive religion for a primitive time, and they can't wait to do away with it. So when we have Jesus Christ come up, and he's a Jew, and he was the man who stood up, in some level against the Roman Empire and for human freedom, for human liberty, for the love of the human soul, for that kind of granularity of the definition of the person. We get into it takes us right into the individuality, against the great imperium of Rome. And so that's why we relate so deeply with Jesus Christ, but also on that level they really hate this guy. He was a Jewish carpenter. They're like with the tanks in Tiananmen Square. They're just like run him over, just take him out. They're with the power of the CCP against the Uyghurs when they're like, just harvest their organs and sell them on the market, and pay Hunter Biden some more to manipulate the West for us, and these kind of things. So ultimately, it's a godless level of evil that we can't really relate to, because I think they like seeing Jesus Christ up on the cross, because he's just a dead Jew. He's a dead Jew that everyone proved is dead, and he's gone. Rome killed the Jew, and that's what Rome does. Rome always kills the Jews. So it's this kind of the anti-Semitism is beyond that. It's like it's already known in their way of thinking that they'll reorder the globe at will. And they will control Christianity, and they'll tell you what Christianity is, and you'll like it, and that's the plan, So I mean, I think in the West we're so far gone. Everyone's always like with the Easter bunny and the Easter baked cat, like the Easter basket has got candy in it and like plastic straw. It's like all colored, and I'm like lost. I'm like I don't understand what's happened. All this weird pagan, magical, mystical themes.
Yeah. They have that. What? Even the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, they have a tradition of dyeing the Easter eggs red.
Right.
And that stems from the blood that was of sacrifices. The red from the blood.
The children. But if you take that child sacrifice back, it goes back to the 40 days of Lent, when it goes back to Semiramis, when, some people don't know any of that stuff. They don't know how Tammuz and Semiramis, and it goes back to the Babylonian occultism. So the Babylonian trinity, the Babylonian system of world empire was being replicated everywhere. It was replicated in Egypt, where they had Pharaoh, and it was replicated among the Canaanites, and the Canaanites and the Philistines, and they had Goliath. So they had that. They had the whole world, against Israel. They had all the nations together in their December 25th, blood sacrifice of children, whatever that was. And God,
Dionysus was born on December 25th.
Right, because you have to recognize that as the cult,
December 25th.
Right, as the cult ideology moved through cultures, it changed language. So when you went from the Phrygian or the Phoenicians over to Assyrian to Babylon to Egyptian, you're changing languages, and you get to the Greek, and you can call it Dionysus, but once it's the same the imagery, the same pattern of worship, and it's the same date, then you realize it's really the same cult. So I think that's what Romanism was really figuring out. Like, by the time you get to Julius Caesar, they're looking down through time and saying, you know what? We're the inheritor of this whole system. I mean, this is all one thing, And so they recognized that it was at odds with the God of Israel. So, so there we go. So we have the rise of the imperium, and they have to go down and send. At first, they're being diplomatic, right? It's diplomacy. They're just sending a legate over. They're just having a little messenger come and go. But little by little, they're so good with their statecraft that they ultimately ended up. You have a legion that's parked nearby, and you have a governor who's coming from Rome who's there just to help you oversee the area. And little by little, you're becoming under control of Rome. And so that's the very moment in history when this man Yeshua, when Jesus Christ, the Messiah, shows up and really overturns the tables, in a permanent way, And so he makes his mark right there at this moment in time when I think that the devil probably would have taken over. I mean, on some level. I mean, that seat of tyranny that Julius Caesar started obviously never went away, right?
Yeah, never went away.
You can see that it passed.
I'm reminded of Isaac and Ishmael. But here's an interesting fact. In the Bible, the true chosen child is never the first child born.
Right.
You go right through down to Jesus. They're not the first child, but in the monarchy is the first child that's inheriting the kingdom.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. It's just an interesting fact.
I'm just having technical issues as usual. Yeah.
Okay, well, you got to speak clearly. I know you're speaking clearly, but
Yeah. It feels good though.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, I got banned from Facebook today.
Oh yeah,
I got banned from my own group. Have you ever heard of the Nazi Bell? It was a prototype UFO that they were making. It was supposed to be anti-gravity. Well, I posted a picture of it, and it had a swastika on it.
Right, naturally.
And I posted it because it's part of the lore, you know? And, you know, it's not, it was there. They built it, but
okay.
I just don't ever have time in front of the computer until after 10 where I'm not interrupted. I'm just kind of sitting on it, listening to the news, because that's what we watch here.
You need to get a computer. Yeah, we'll have to help you out. I was talking about that.
Yeah, I have a laptop, but the charger cord broke from it on it, so the second charger cord I'll have to buy. It'll be 3 charger cords. Lenovo has that problem.
So you just see like a $15 charger cord and you're good? That sucks. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, well, actually it's $30.
Right.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yeah, that's all I need. I mean, I miss having it because I like to come outside and do stuff outside, and the computer is bound to the desk. So.
Right.
So,
I don't know where we left off. Yeah, we were just talking. We were just trying to get this. It's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. There's so much stuff going on.
It really is. It really is. China. What about China and their missile? I didn't realize this. It actually circled the globe,
right, and
then hit its target within 20 feet of its target. I don't know how they knew it was that. You know what the target was, and then they said it was for peaceful purposes for space exploration, part of their space program.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to perfect their technology and orbital technology. And it seems like that technology, as far as the blast, it seems like they use these titanium rods and they just drop them from that really high altitude, and it's a simple friction blast that's really like explosive because it hits so hard and so fast. You know, it doesn't take very much of a really hard titanium rod just to like such high velocity, and it just causes this massive explosion. You know, so they're not really complicated weapons. I don't think they're just straightforward like spear, you know, like a orbital spear, and it can probably blow up a city. Yeah.
I mean, they can be nuclear, fit with nuclear arms.
I think you could. It wouldn't take much too, because it's already very destructive. I think the way they work.
Currently, the ICBMs are the analogy is that it's like hitting a bullet with a bullet, but they can do it. But this goes so fast and flies so low that it's not low, just relatively low.
I think it's probably a point. We
got to have a whole new race of anti-missile.
Yeah, I think it's directly overhead, so it's going to drop directly overhead. There's no way to really stop it. It's just so fast. It's like trying to stop a meteor.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
In seconds, I think that in 10 seconds you'd be out of there. So I don't know how you block that. It's not like it's coming from another continent and going way up in the atmosphere and traveling for 3,000 miles. It's like, I think they just bring it right overhead and just like blast you with it, you know?
Yeah. Well, they also, China, I keep thinking they're going to hit Taiwan, but they have the Olympics coming up next year, so they're not going to want to do it before that. And then I look, there's so much that goes on in Beijing, so many companies
and conglomerations around the world meet in Beijing. Right. And they have a few that are going to be big in China, so they're not going to do anything, I don't think, until after the Olympics. Or you think of the art of war, the first rule of war is deceit.
Well, I think that they're not ready to go kinetic. They're not strong enough yet. They only have 2 aircraft carriers, and they really need to get the island chain, like, so. But that's the beginning of the process of getting that. So I think that they're just kind of like broaching the whole issue. They're putting it out there. They're looking strong. They're flying the jets over. And it'll be just a process of demoralization and grinding down. So 8 months goes by. 12 months goes by. And what they'll do is there'll be all these different issues going on around the world, and no one will be looking. It'll be like what Russia did. And all of a sudden, boom, they'll just slide it in when there's like, they'll put Biden under, drastic issues here and here and here. And, and they might even use the Olympics. Like, what do you want to interrupt the Olympics? Like, everybody's already cheering, like,
Well, but the economy is so bad in China. They're going through virtually. They're going through a depression.
Yeah.
Their banks, their corporations are all. If you look, yesterday there was a report on how they're all defaulting on their loans.
Well, the companies, what is it? All through the real estate sector just went down, right? So it's like BlackRock and some of those companies.
Evergreen's the one that they had to put. They had to put the safety nets outside the buildings to keep the people from killing themselves because their jobs were so horrible that they were jumping out of these buildings. These were the microprocessors and computer chips.
Yeah, and they're working for nothing because their government is a bunch of thieves, and they constantly manipulate their interest rate and their money value so much that it doesn't surprise me that it all finally came to a head. And they're not going to let their military-industrial complex get affected. So all the people's savings, it's sort of like fake capitalism anyway. So they kind of like let them think that they had a savings, right? Like they let them think that they were going to save some kind of capital up, or I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's weird because they're communists, but they have this capitalist. I don't know what you would call it. This capitalist philosophy that
it's like a hybrid
permeates the party, I guess, the rich people. I don't understand it. I would love to just go to China and spend a year there trying to figure out how things work.
Well, it looks like to me that all the big corporations are state-owned, and it's basically like an extension of the military, because state-owned and military-owned are the same thing. So, like Huawei and some of the big Chinese companies out there, even they were putting phones, like hundreds of millions of phones all over the world. Even like my daughter had a Huawei phone, but apparently that was like a huge spy mechanism for them to be able to spy on the world. And same thing with TikTok. Apparently, TikTok it's a CCP owned, Chinese owned company. So as people use it, I don't think they're aware of how much power it gives the Chinese government,
And the left is still saying...
Like this is what I'm saying. In America, like, you have Mark Zuckerberg, and he can do whatever he wants. He has all this, like, godlike power. Same thing with the Twitter guy. Same thing, even, like, with John McAfee, with the McAfee... these guys have so much power, but they have it of themselves, and the government that doesn't have any real standing to come in and just like own them, So they cooperate with the Democrat Party, but they don't necessarily have to, in my mind. But in China, I think that if you have a large company, they're going to come in there and they're going to tell you what to do, and you're just going to be part of the government,
Well, what do you do? Buy American is racist to say buy American,
right? And
to promote buy American products. I mean, Trump tried to get as many corporations back to America.
Everything is racist. Everything is racist now. Everything. So, period.
So,
yeah, I saw a lot of jobs where the materials had to be like all, it was all labeled "Made in America." Like all the school jobs where they require.
And not too long ago, I need to look this back up. But India India had a big skirmish with China. They fight over this region between India and China.
The Kashmir?
It might be part of Kashmir. They fight Pakistan over Kashmir, but it might be in Kashmir as well. But if you watch them change the guards at the gates to Kashmir, they open the gates and close them. The soldiers march past each other or up to each other like it's just awful hatred towards each other, and they slam the gates shut. It's really cool to watch it. We need to concentrate more on India. India is our friend, but they're
part of what they call
strategic for us with China.
Yeah, they call it the Quad. So I think the Quad nations right now, if I remember, are Australia, India, Japan, and America. So those Quad nations right now are like, if you look it up, are the ones who are like major players. And we have major concerns because the Chinese think that the Sea of Japan and all the different areas in the area are just basically there for them to, they're kind of bolstering up their power. Sorry, you got me after work.
The Hindus, so. I don't know about the Muslims, but Hindus definitely, as generalization, that they hate China. They hate them. I have a friend that lives in India. He's a Hindu, very peace loving, but when the subject he gets belligerent.
What is his opinion, that they're just fascists, or
they're communists?
Right.
And
that's their religion.
That's their religion.
Communism is a religion at this point. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I believe it is.
I mean, they're not happy to live in the world that they're espousing, but they want everyone else to join them, and they insist. They're very insistent. Everyone else to join.
And we're marching right along with that same philosophy.
Yeah, I've been working a lot, so I haven't really been watching the news. But I know, I mean, America's economic landscape is changing drastically. Like New York, I know $1 trillion of real estate capital, etc., has left New York, state, just left, including Donald Trump. Is just just one aspect of that. And then the Tesla guy, Elon Musk, he's basically on his way to Texas now, right?
Yeah, he's in Texas.
So he's like, I'm going to make money, and I'm going to go. They're going to go where they got to go.
Have you heard about his flamethrower business?
I did hear it. Like, how does that work?
He got this idea, him and a friend, that they were going to build a flamethrower, so they made one. And they use, I believe, natural gas or propane is what is used.
Right.
But they have this awesome flamethrower, and on the box it says, "This is not a flamethrower. This is a terrible product, and no one should buy it." And they sold it for one day. They sold 20,000.
Wow.
And then that was it. Yeah. And he's in that position where he can just come up with an idea, finance it, and see it through, and make money off of it.
Right. That's what capitalism is all about. It's like you can see the idea, you can see the opening, and you have the apparatus around you to bring it into being and make it happen, and you do. That's like a lot.
He's a globalist, but I think he's a good globalist. He's a capitalist, but he's still part of that global community.
Well, I don't have a problem with global community, but I want to keep America's national sovereignty in that environment. So I think so do they. I mean, they can't be amazingly Tesla and SpaceX billionaire elites without America. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. If you get the Kim Jong-un, right, version of the world that they're trying to bring about, there's going to be no more. The only thing that creates that kind of innovation and that expanse of technology is through those kind of markets. No one's going to innovate just to be another apparatchik, another comrade that gets another stipend. That stipends and milk allotments and cheese allotments from the Stalinist government don't promote new medicines and new you know what I mean?
Yeah.
New breakthroughs.
There's such a total onslaught against our way of life. You look at it so many ways. And the alternative is that. That's what they want for us. That's what they think we want.
Well,
but you have the Democratic Party going right along with that same philosophy. They use the same tactics as Mao.
Right.
Separating the children from the family. This really irks me.
Right. It's unconscionable. And they want to replace that. It reminds me of that monkey who has like the fake monkey mom, and it's like just like a big monkey, like like a bottle, but it doesn't know it's not his mom. It's just it's
yeah. They just put a wire cage with some like furry stuff on it,
right?
And the monkey thought it was his mother.
Right, that's going to be the state.
And he would be scared if he was frightened. He'd run and hug it. It's really sad to see it.
That's us though with our fucking welfare state. We run to Nancy Pelosi for our stimulus checks. Oh, help us! They got us so bad with this because we're so addicted to Federal Reserve notes. We're so addicted to it. You can't even go to the IRS and be like, here, I got all this gold bars. They won't take it. They only take Federal Reserve notes. That's it. So that's everything has to be all wealth and all denominated like value. You have to like come back to this like single source. So they own us, dude, with that because people like once they stop printing it out and like it's like it reminds me of that like when you're at the store and you're a little kid and you put the quarter in the game and the quarter like rolls all the way down and boom 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 it goes around and then like drops in the little slot and then it rolls down the little thing and boom boom boom. And right. Like that's what the money does. Like they print it out, and it comes all down through the economy, and then like lots of people have to like borrow it and pay it back, and then it starts. And then it's done. It's like they could spend $1 trillion in 6 months, and it just blows right through. It's amazing.
It's a shame.
It's an astonishing amount of bank credit.
And Iran doesn't have a central bank, Rothschild central bank, and when the only thing that I hear Joe Biden talking about now in the Middle East, because he's not going to talk about Afghanistan for sure, is
Iran.
Is a nuclear-armed Iran. Right. What are we going to do about that? And
they just freaking.
Are we furthering the Rothschild dynasty by making Iran a central bank state?
Right.
I don't know how. I know presidents, early presidents, Lincoln won, but they knew the horrors of a central bank and what it would do. It's just ridiculous that we have it that way.
Right.
All of that interest that we pay, all of that interest could be going towards something. It's such a huge amount of money. And just the interest alone is, well, they make it out of nothing. But the interest alone could fuel all sorts of things.
Well, you have to understand the actual economic landscape of our predicament. Because we went from a point where we had money as a nation, we had gold and silver money, and we traded it with each other, and we were above board. We were in the black ink. We were out of the red, and we had value. We had money, but we defaulted so drastically and so badly and so extremely that we had to borrow money from foreign creditors who gave us money, and we never, we were on borrowed debt, and we never actually had our own money back. And when we defaulted in that, because that Federal Reserve Act ran from 1913 to 1929, because in 1929 was the Great Depression, and at that point when we defaulted, people did throw themselves out of windows, and the Roaring '20s was over, and there was bread lines, and at that point they just went and took all the gold and silver money out of the economy, and they just took it because they owned it, because we defaulted as our American credit. We defaulted to the Federal Reserve, banking system. So they went and got whatever they could get as collateral. And from that point on, in order for us to get any more banking credit, the only thing we had left to offer was our biological property, which means our physical person.
Right.
And then actual per son, which means per son, from each son. So each person that would be born from that point forward would have a birth certificate and a social security number. And they would be denominated, and they would be counted, and all of us have this situation where our biological property, our actual person, and our personal sovereignty, I guess, is bound up with this huge banking credit that we're on right now.
But it only works if everyone believes it. It's like voodoo.
Well,
it only works because at some point the people aren't going to stand for it.
Well, think about how it works. Even when you go into Publix now and you slip the money in the machine, it says notes. So we're well past the part where we even think we have dollars. And at this point, the way it works is like the whole system is like set up with these chips. So you have to have chip cards, and even if you want to go on Amazon and punch the digits in and watch a movie, or you want to swipe and get like Little Caesars and get some pizza, you got to have these cards. And they got the only banking instrument that they take is the Federal Reserve notes. So I mean, there's really no other way to really use the system without it. You know, that you can't. I mean, I've saved up different kinds of things of value, but you can't go and spend them in the system. So it is getting, and it's crazy because it's building up in this culmination point where it's really getting really easy to use Cash App and to use to buy cryptocurrencies and do all this stuff. But at the same time, the Federal Reserve system is actually imploding because they can't just keep printing trillions of dollars every month. You know, we want 10 trillion, we want 30 trillion. You can see what's going to happen. It's going to just
eventually
it's going to be epic.
Maybe it'll go the way of the Templars.
It'll be epic. Yeah, I mean,
there needs to be another Friday the 13th.
I mean, how do you do that though? Yeah, I mean, that they just kind of did that to themselves. Really, they should have been watching out better, I guess. You know, at that point. But they did take him out. But at the same time, the whole system itself kind of went on because they took the Templars out. The Hospitaller Knights, the Order of St. John, the Hospitaller Knights, they actually took over the properties of the Templars and they continued on. And they became the Knights of the Rhodes and the Knights of Malta and so on and so forth. And
Knights of Malta.
Right, that's who that's what short.
The Knights of Malta, and Malta, I believe, is where. Is that the lodge? Is that one of the lodges?
Well, if you go and look at the Scottish Rite Lodge and their 33 degrees, if you get up to the 30th, the 31st, and the 32nd, you'll see that they're the knighthood degrees. So they have the order of the Knight of Malta order, and they have the Templar Knight order, and they have the Rose Cross.
Rosicrucians?
Yeah, the Rose Cross Knight Order. Like if you look, the Rose Cross, which is the Rosicrucian. So all those different kind of the esoteric schools are kind of considered, taken into consideration in each of those degrees. So at that point, I think that it's recognized that you're an enforcer of the nobility, that you're serving the aristocracy. And that's where the Roman Church plays.
What it is.
Yeah. That's where the Roman Church plays such a central role because they come in and they coronate and they choose the decider. They decide, yes, this king right here is good and we back him, or they tear him down. So they're the make and make and break the kings. So
yeah. Let me go and I will get in a little while.
Yeah, man. I'll hit you up later.
All right.
All right, peace.
All right, bye.